let's take a trip back to the 90s for a minute. Because clearly, as a teenager, I am overqualified to talk about the 90s. Hello everyone, WorstmusicoftheYear here, and 2 weeks ago, in my review of Happy by Pharrell Williams, I called Rump Shaker by Wreckx-n-Effects one of the worst rap songs of the 90s. And listening to it again, I completely stand by that statement. Recently, I sat down and listened to every single #1 hit of the 90s, barring 1999, so I've heard a good deal of 90s rap. And as far as 90s rap goes, this is just about the worst it gets. I mean, there is nothing good I can say about this at all. The production is stale and dated, the chord progression is generic and uninteresting, the beat is weak and sloppy, the rappers are lame, the verses are monotonous, and it has one of the most infuriatingly stupid choruses of all time. In fact, this might be the worst rap song of the 90s. I mean, I legitimately cannot think of a 90s rap song worse than this. Oh yeah, never mind. I guess Rump Shaker has some competition. This is MC Hammer. Yes, that MC Hammer.
You can't touch this.
Yes, the guy who made You Can't Touch This also made Pumps in a Bump. I know some of you have already taken about 20 years to let that sink in, but I'm gonna give you a bit more time, okay? You done? Great, let's continue. MC Hammer released You Can't Touch This back in 1990. It was one of the most definitive rap songs of the 90s, even though it never actually hit #1. In fact, it peaked at #8 in America. Apparently it was only released as a 12-inch single or something, but that's beside the point. You Can't Touch This, despite its surprisingly low peak, was a gigantic success. Looking back on it, yeah, it wasn't that great. It's one of those songs that gets worse every 5 seconds you listen to it. Back in the 90s, however, the public loved it, and it earned MC Hammer multiple awards. Hammer's next two singles, Have You Seen Her and Pray, despite peaking at 4 and 2 on Billboard respectively, were completely forgotten. Then, an entire 4 years later, Hammer released Pumps in a Bump. It was a minor hit, and it was awful. But before we can critique the song, we need to establish its context to find out why Hammer thought releasing the song was a good idea at the time. Rump Shaker was released in 1992, when the trend of cheesy, fun rap was in full blast. Pumps in a Bump, on the other hand, was released right when the cheesy rap songs of the 90s were going out of style and gangster rap was becoming popular. It was obvious that in 1994, a song that sounded like You Can't Touch This would never chart, so in order to maintain chart success, MC Hammer tried to jump onto the gangster rap movement. And he failed miserably, essentially killing his own career. MC Hammer had already built up a reputation as a cheesy, fun rapper in the early 90s, so it was really out of character for him to do something like this. I mean, he doesn't even sound like himself. He sounds more like P. Diddy's 5-year-old cousin. But that's not the problem with this song. The problem isn't who executed the transition, the problem was how the transition was executed. MC Hammer executed this transition in the absolute worst way possible. He didn't fully convert, he compromised. He tried to gain a more hardcore sound while still staying somewhat true to his original persona. This is like half gangster rap, half cheesy rap. And no, it's not a good combination. In fact, this doesn't sound at all like gangster rap. I mean, listen to some real gangster rap from the 90s, like Gangsta's Paradise, one of the best songs of all time. It sounds nothing like Pumps in a Bump. In fact, the song that Pumps in a Bump sounds the most similar to is Rump Shaker by Wreckx-n-Effects. I mean, they both have weak and irritating beats, they're both kind of cheesy, and they're both explicitly and unironically about women shaking their butts. But which one is worse? I mean, these are essentially the two worst rap songs of the 90s, but one of them has to be worse than the other, right? Well, I guess in order to properly compare these songs, I should judge them both on 5 different grounds to see which one is definitively worse. Let's start with ground 1, the beats. The beat to Rump Shaker is garbage. The twinkly chord progression and weak, stale drum line combine into a sloppy mess, which is only made worse by the addition of random sound effects. I mean, what is that? The beat to Pumps in a Bump is also garbage. Very basic and generic drum rhythms were thrown together into an incoherent sound and topped off with a whiny synth tone that runs through most of the song. It's honestly pretty hard to decide which one is worse, but the whiny synth tone in Pumps in a Bump does get pretty annoying after a while, so I'd say that Pumps in a Bump wins, loses, gets a point, which means that it's worse. Now on to part 2, the lyrics. The lyrics to Pumps in a Bump and Rump Shaker are both generic and pointless, but each song has one extremely cringeworthy moment, so that's what I'll be judging them on. both of these lyrics seem more like parodies of rap. Still though, since Pumps and a Bump's cringeworthy line is only rapped once through the entire song, I can give it a pass. Rump Shaker's worst lyric is in its chorus, which is inexcusable. Point goes to Rump Shaker. Which reminds me, part 3, the hook. Both Pumps and a Bump and Rump Shaker's hooks consist of one line repeated over and over. But which hook is worse? Rump Shaker's, obviously. I mean, you can't even compare the two. Rump Shaker's hook is absolute nonsense. Say whatever you want about the phrase Pumps and a Bump, at least it's almost a coherent sentence. Point goes to Rump Shaker. Part 4, the vocals. Once again, no contest. Pumps and a Bump wins. Is worse. Rump Shaker may be a sloppy mess, but at least the audio quality is okay for 1990. Pumps and a Bump's audio quality is atrocious. The microphone quality is unclear, and the beat is way too loud. I can barely even make out what MC Hammer is saying half the time. It's like he recorded this song from the other side of an echoey room. And yes, this is a problem that exists with all versions of the video. And let's not forget about this. How can anyone be this bad at singing? How is it that all 5 of these women are off key? The vocals on this song are honestly so horrific, they deserve 2 points. Part 5, reception and chart success. Rump Shaker, obviously. Rump Shaker was a hit. Pumps and a Bump may have peaked at number 26, but it never ended up on any of the Billboard year-end lists, and no one really liked it. Rump Shaker, however, was the 9th biggest song of 1993, and it peaked at number 2. Meaning that, at the time, it was taken seriously, and people actually liked it. The only thing keeping it off the number 1 spot was this. Now, I'm not really that big a fan of this song, but it kept Rump Shaker off the number 1 spot, for which I have nothing but endless praise. Point goes to Rump Shaker, which means, in the end, the songs are tied. Screw it, I'm flipping a coin. Heads, Rump Shaker's worse. Tails, Pumps and a Bump is worse. The coin didn't land. Screw it, Pumps and a Bump is worse. That's right, I'm calling it. Pumps and a Bump, the worst rap song of the 90s. I mean, Rump Shaker was bad. It was really, really bad, but at least it didn't ruin anyone's career. It may have been a bigger hit, but it was basically harmless. Pumps and a Bump was so bad, it single-handedly ruined MC Hammer's reputation. I mean, sure, the video was mostly responsible for this, but the song didn't help matters. I mean, this song was a disaster for MC Hammer. As soon as he released it, the public rejected him. He soon disappeared off the face of the earth completely, leaving behind one of the worst songs of all time as part of his legacy. And if that isn't solid proof that Pumps and a Bump is the worst rap song of the 90s, I don't know what is. I am Worst Music of the Year. Screw these songs. Good night. Oh, hey, landed on heads. Guess I was wrong.
What?
Pumps and a Bump was so hand, it single-handedly ruined MC Hoover.